Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while since I did a video on Space Force, which is supposed to be the sixth branch of the US military. And I think I did my very first video on this back in 2019 and haven't heard very much about it, especially now with COVID-19 going on. But they just published an update because they're recruiting right now for for a US Space Force. I wonder what their basic training is going to be like. The basic concept is a call to arms for a new way of dealing with military matters in Earth's orbit. No, it doesn't mean sky soldiers zooming around with laser blasters. It has a lot to do with using and protecting the satellites that are essential to modern warfare, especially for high tech countries like the US and some of its potential adversaries. The Space Force is already looking to sign up America's best and brightest for duty. That's nowhere near sci fi as it may seem just a few years ago. Its first recruitment video dropped on May 6th, and officials say there's already been an avalanche of applicants. Here are some key things to know about Space Force. Space Force was established on December 20th, 2019, and will be put into operation or stood up in Pentagon speak over 18 months. So by mid 2020, its responsibilities, according to the new branch fact sheet, include developing military space professionals, acquiring military space systems, and maturing the military doctrine for space power. The 2020 National Defense Authorization Act provide $40 million to get things going. At the helm is General John J. Raymond, the country's first chief of space operations and the very first member of Space Force. It is the sixth branch of the US military. So, in that sense, it's equivalent to the Air Force, Army, Navy, and Marine Corps and Coast Guard. There is some bureaucratic nuisance to that. Space Force falls under the Secretary of the Air Force, similar to how the Marines come under the Secretary of the Navy. In its initial phase, it's leaning heavily on that sibling. What's now the Space Force was the existing Air Force Space Command, and the related Air Force personnel will be transferring over in the coming months. So they have people in the Air Force that will switch from the Air Force to Space Force. Okay. So they're saying that Space Force got off to an awkward start in January when Trump revealed the Space Force logo, which took a lot of social media grief for its striking resemblance to the Starfleet Command logo from, yeah, Star Trek. I remember that. I remember everybody's reaction when they saw the logo and the uniform. It's just a camouflage uniform. There was also a ribbing that ensued when Space Force offered its uniform, which it just looks similar to any camouflage uniform that you would see. I guess people were expecting to see something different. Members will look like their joint counterparts they'll be working with on the ground. More to the point of what the new branch is all about, on March 26th, Space Force carried out its call in its first national security space launch, sending into orbit a military communications satellite built by Lockheed Martin that's part of a 6 satellite network encrypted jam-proof system. The next launch of the secretive X-37B space plane carrying experiments for NASA and the military is set for May 16th. So that's not far from now. Okay, in April, the U.S. Air Force Academy graduating class of 2020 included, for the first time, officers being commissioned directly into the Space Force. Of the more than 960 graduates, 86 will become Space Force first company grade officers, though approximately 16,000 military members and civilians from the Air Force Command have been designated for the new branch. Raymond told the officers, "You are number 3 through 88. As of May 1st, Air Force members already on active duty could volunteer to transfer to Space Force, with those transfers expected to begin around the start of September. Those eligible will transfer, including officers, enlisted members in fields, including space operations, cyberspace operations. Okay, so people from the Air Force will be transferring over to Space Force. All right, so this is a historic time in the space business, Raymond said in a statement. So they're just talking about how it got started, and we heard about that last year. Okay. So, what exactly has the military been up to? The US military has been involved in space related projects for decades. In the 1960s, at the same time that NASA was working towards a moon landing, the Air Force had a parallel manned space program with its own astronauts, although none of them ever launched, as far as we know. Recently, the Air Force, Navy, and Army had their own units focused on elements of operations in space. The Pentagon memo obtained by Defense One indicated that the Trump administration's original proposal on a 6 military branch had the Space Force absorbing the Naval Satellite Operations Center, the Navy Space and Naval Warfare System Command, and parts of the Air Force Space Command, and the Army's 1st Space Brigade, which was specifically created for enabling the delivery of defensive combat power and includes 2 astronauts who are basically on loan to NASA. Today, a significant portion of U.S. military activities tied to space resides in the Air Force Space Command, headquartered in Colorado, with over 30,000 people worldwide, and launch facilities in Florida and California. The command handles missions that include satellite communication, missile warning systems, surveillance of space activities, and projects like the secretive X-37B space plane. The Air Force even oversees the global positioning system. So they're talking about GPS. Okay. So they're recruiting for Space Force. And I'm sure they'll get more applicants. They already said they got an avalanche of people trying to join the 6th branch of the military, y'all. Look at the timing of this. I don't believe that's a coincidence. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.